Hey everybody, this is Perch. Here's a question for you, and it's God, I can almost already predict some of the responses. That kind of sucks. But anyway, here's my question for you. So right now, with Marvel and DC, kind of our big two, this is more of a Marvel thing than a DC thing, though. There is this kind of this push to regurgitate the past a little bit. And I say it that way because that's always how the publisher and a lot of the people who work for the publisher say. They talk about how we're supposed to move on from the past, and so things like Danny Ketch, Ghost Rider, and Peter Parker, Mary Jane's marriage, and just kind of these various elements are are stuck in the past. And whenever a fan or a reader talks about liking that era, there's always this kind of snide response that comes out. Not always, but there's often a snide response coming out like these customers who never want anything to change. That's how it's described. That's how it's defined. Customers who never want anything to change. And I think that's unfair. I think that's not what's going on. I think the customers in some cases have a fondness in their heart for the era where they started reading comics. Maybe the stories were better then, maybe they weren't, but it means something to the reader. So when the reader kind of pines for their favorite moment in a comic, that's not meant to be a big negative. And if a reader says, I'd rather have that than what I'm getting now, well, that may hurt if you're one of the creators writing stuff now, but it's also a bit of honesty from the customer, from the person you want to take money from. And, it's worth listening to. It doesn't mean you have to follow it. If you follow everything that every customer says, you're going to go broke. It's an even faster way to go broke than being woke, but it doesn't rhyme, so it doesn't roll off the tongue well. But you can't just, basically run around like a chicken with your head cut off, just taking every whim that everybody wants. You still have to craft a good story, something compelling, something that's going to meet the needs of the masses, not just one or two individuals. You have to go bigger. But the point that I'm making here is that we often see this dynamic of fans, readers talking about wanting things from the past, and then the publisher's talking about, like, I don't understand why you fans can't move on from the past. And then what we're seeing happening a lot with Marvel is a continual kind of announcement chain of going back and doing stories from the past. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm glad to see Peter David doing work. I've enjoyed some of the Maestro stories that he's done. I like the Symbiote Spider-Man, kind of that era, and some of the stuff he's done there. I've liked quite a bit of what Marvel has done there, and they did announce a new Danny Ketch Ghost Rider limited series, which is set during the time when Danny was the Ghost Rider. Very 90s. And Marvel clearly thinks they're going to make some money off this. I mean, they keep doing it, and the sales for them have not been stellar. They're not their number one sellers, but they're far from the bottom too. Some of the Peter David series outsold some of the X line. And, for a story that unfortunately for a lot of readers, people picked up on it, it's somewhat inconsequential. Whatever's happening in that story doesn't really matter too much because it's set in the past. It can't, it can't really redefine any kind of status quo. It's telling a story that is, by its nature, trapped in a bubble. So, it's got some disadvantages going into it, but it's still selling better. But I guess my question is, if, first off, if it's bad to, constantly live in the past, if this is something to sneer at, then why is there more and more and more of these series coming out? Why are the publishers going back and doing this? Well, this isn't an accident. They are doing it because the sales numbers are there. But what is going on exactly? Is the publisher like producing some of these books and they're just sitting there kind of gnashing their teeth the whole time? Like, God damn it, we have to go send Peter David more money. He made some cracks about Romani people at one point, and I don't feel good about giving him a dime, but fuck, I guess his comics sell, so we're just going to keep giving him money and letting him keep doing these comics, even though we hate him and we want the customers to move on and not live in the past. Here's some more comics from the past. Like, what a schizophrenic place to be. Like, how does it even work? And in a weirdest way, I mean, it's kind of a monkey's paw level of comic, because while, yes, it's true, we are going back and we're dipping into the past and we're telling a story from an era people have fondness of, we're also keeping it completely trapped in a bubble where it can't really evolve. It can't really move on. In many cases, it's worse than what the fans are accused of asking for. The fans are accused of asking for, a return to the past, but they're asked for adventures from some of the classic characters. So what does the publisher do? They give adventures from the classic versions of the characters, and they do so in a storyline that makes it impossible for any kind of character growth or development to happen. Meaning, if the issue is that we're not supposed to be living in the past, we want to evolve and kind of do things in the future and break new ground, then why are you not only creating comics featuring some of these these classic characters, but you're also doing so set in the past where there is no hope that the status quo can change? You are literally telling a story in a time capsule, and you're doing this more and more and more. And again, it's selling, but if your issue here is that fans and people can't live in the past, then why are you not only producing a comic book that lives in the past, but is trapped there? A lot of customers and fans who say they like, the restoration of the Spider-Man marriage, or they like to see Adventures with Danny Ketch, they're not saying, hey, can you just go back and tell stories from exactly that time period and never move on and leave it trapped in that time period? No, they're saying they'd like to see the character come into the future, interact with characters that are happening now. They'd like to see, that's what they're looking for. They are looking for character growth. They're looking. So I guess my question, if I'm summarizing all this up, is I don't get the strategy. I'm grateful that we have some of these comics. These are some of my favorite comics right now. The Paul Levette's Avengers Through Time is one of the best comics I've read, from Marvel in the last year. It's great. You should go pick it up. It's an absolutely wonderful comic. But I don't get the point. So, you don't like doing this. In a lot of cases, you undermarket it. One of the more miraculous things is that you see titles that are marketed 5 or 6x. These titles, these throwback set in the past titles, but they sell worse. And so I think it's a pretty clear and compelling message to the publisher. And please, this is how I kind of start off the video. Please don't give me this bullshit that the publishers are just doing this on purpose. They're just losing money to purposefully spite the fans. I understand that plays really well in live streams, and it plays really well to kind of crazy conspiracy theories. This idea that somebody is so evil that they're intentionally just pissing away money to personally fuck you. But I'm sorry, if the absolute best and most powerful way, if you believe there's an agenda at play, the most powerful and obvious way to do it would be if you stumble across something that prints you cash, you take the cash, you leverage it to invest in your own crazy ass things. Marvel as an entity, the editors, a lot of the people would become dramatically more powerful if they just leaned in to some of this stuff, could say with a straight face, it's like, yeah, we do listen to the fans, whether it's true or not. And then, hell, and they could do the thing that so many people hate, including me, where if they have this stuff going and they're actually bringing some of these classic versions into the present, they could retcon the ever-loving shit out of them. You think Bobby becoming gay is something? You could gayify 70% of the line. Everybody who's like you like Danny Ketch, congratulations, he's back and he's trans now. That is more of a strategy, if that's what it came to. But I'm sorry, this is incompetence. This isn't some kind of weird 3-dimensional chess where they're just purposely screwing with the fans. This is incompetence. So where do you go with all this? I can't wrap my head around, okay, the fans are going to ask for classic versions of characters they would rather see. The publisher is going to make fun of them for that and tell them they're stuck in the past. The publisher is then going to create comics featuring those characters. On top of that, the publisher is going to take these characters, which they have previously mocked fans for not evolving, and stick them in situations where the characters cannot evolve. they are going to print so many of these that, the most recent month of solicitation, it's starting to become 10% of their line falls into this category. At some point, you have to look at all this and go, what the hell are you doing? Seriously, what the hell? Again, don't get me wrong. I'm glad these titles exist. I like a lot of them. The strategy behind it is just bizarre. And so, the real truth of the matter is I am misleading you in this video because I keep using the word strategy when the correct word is stupidity. That's really where we're at. Anyway, it just was on my mind, wanted to get it out there. I find it just bizarre and baffling on all fronts. But, maybe you have a different opinion. Hope you do. Let me know your thoughts and where all this goes and what the secret is. And please, just I mean, if you got to do it, you got to do it. But if the answer is you're going to type up a long screed about how this is a way to purposefully fuck over the fans, anyway, hurry up and downvote. Said you have no response to that. Downvote is your answer. Parakeet, thanks for listening.